Have you ever stopped to think about how many breathtaking landscapes are scattered across this vast world? Mountains that seem straight out of a dream, forests where nature still reigns supreme, places where the silence is so deep, it feels like it speaks to your soul. In today's video, we're going to explore some of the most fascinating places on Earth. Manupuna, Russia. In the heart of Russia, between the icy edges of the Komi Republic and the borders of Sverdlovsk Oblast, stands a natural monument as mysterious as it is mesmerizing. Deep in the Ural Mountains, 7 colossal stone pillars defy time, wind, and reason. They are known as Manupuna, a name that in the Mansi language means small mountain of the idols. These rock formations, some reaching up to 138 feet tall, are silent witnesses of lost eras, guardians of ancient legends, and symbols of a place where time seems to bow before nature's eternity. Isolated, solemn, and nearly supernatural, the Manupuna pillars stand like sentinels on a remote, unforgiving plateau, surrounded by boreal forests and snow-covered highlands. For millennia, they remained hidden from the world's eyes. Only the indigenous peoples of the region, such as the Mansi and the Komi, knew of their existence. For them, the pillars were not just geological structures, they were sacred beings, eternal idols shaped by gods or forces beyond human comprehension. In their mythology, these stone giants play a central role as petrified warriors, transformed shamans, or spirits punished by the sovereignty of nature. Scientifically, the pillars are classified as weathering remnants. They were sculpted over hundreds of millions of years by the relentless forces of wind, snow, rain, and the extreme cold that dominates the northern Urals. Once part of a solid mountain range, they were gradually eroded until only these 7 isolated titans remained. The tallest of them rises to 138 feet, about the height of a 14-story building. And while today Manupuna draws adventurers and geologists from around the world, it was once a place to be avoided. Legends told by Mansi shamans speak of Samoyed giants who tried to cross the Ural Mountains to conquer the tribes to the west. Upon reaching the plateau, the gods, angered by their arrogance, turned them into stone. One of them, the most powerful shaman, tried to resist, but upon seeing his companions petrified, fell to his knees and was also fossilized by divine power. Angkor Wat, Cambodia. In this stunning paradise nestled in Southeast Asia, where tropical forests conceal the secrets of forgotten empires, rests one of the greatest monuments to faith, architecture, and human civilization, Angkor Wat. A temple, a sanctuary, a universe carved in stone. Its name in Sanskrit means City of Temples, and no name could be more fitting. Located near the city of Siem Reap in present-day Cambodia, Angkor Wat is far more than a structure. It is a testament to the spiritual, political, and artistic greatness of a people who nearly 1,000 years ago built by hand one of the largest religious complexes on the planet. Larger than the Vatican, more expansive than Machu Picchu, more mysterious than the pyramids of Giza. Built in the early 12th century by King Suryavarman II, Angkor Wat was initially dedicated to the Hindu god Vishnu, an unprecedented gesture at the time since Angkorian temples had until then been consecrated to Shiva. The king, visionary and ambitious, sought not only to build a temple for the gods, but a physical reflection of the cosmic universe according to Hindu mythology. And so Angkor Wat was designed as a representation of Mount Meru, the sacred dwelling of the gods. Its 5 central towers symbolize the 5 peaks of the divine mountain. The concentric walls evoke the land rings surrounding Meru, and the vast moat encircling the complex represents the cosmic oceans. Every stone block, every sculpture, every step is a carved metaphor of heaven on earth. Made from over 11 billion pounds of sandstone, transported from quarries located more than 31 miles away, the complex took about 30 years to complete. Thousands of artisans, laborers, architects, and priests participated in its construction. There are no records of mortar being used between the stones. Each block was meticulously cut to fit with millimetric precision, as if they were pieces of an eternal puzzle. The temple walls are covered with over 3,000 figures of apsaras, celestial dancers, depicted in a fascinating variety of poses, garments, and expressions. They are not mere decorations. They are divine messengers between the world of men and the realm of the gods. Sigeria Rock, Sri Lanka. On the island of Sri Lanka, surrounded by dense forest and fields that ripple in the tropical breeze, rises a rock fortress as imposing as it is legendary. Its name has echoed for centuries through the chants of history and the whispers of myth, Sigeria, the Lion Rock. It rises abruptly 656 feet above the surrounding plain, like a solitary monolith, a natural fortress, a throne sculpted by earth for kings, gods, and demons. But Sigeria is not just a geological formation, it is a palace frozen in time. More than 1,500 years ago, around the 5th century after Christ, a prince named Kassapa seized the throne of the kingdom of Anuradhapura by assassinating his father, King Datusena. Kassapa, considered a usurper and fearing retaliation from his rightful half-brother Moggallana, decided to abandon the capital and build his own citadel, unreachable, invincible, imposing. He chose Sigeria. There atop that lonely rock, Kassapa ordered the construction of an unprecedented palace city. With geometric water gardens, polished stone mirrors, hydraulic fountains still functional today, and stairways guarded by giant lion paws, he transformed Sigeria into one of the architectural wonders of the ancient world. The climb to the top is more than a physical journey. It is a passage through the remnants of a sophisticated, meticulously planned civilization. At the base of the rock, symmetrical gardens stretch out like welcoming arms. At the summit, the ruins of Kassapa's palace are revealed, open halls under the sky, pools carved into the living rock, terraces lost in the mist, and a throne facing the horizon. From there he could see everything, the forest, the lakes, the paths that led to his kingdom. But Kassapa would not know peace. His reign would be marked by paranoia, isolation, and the constant threat of war. Vengeance, after all, would come. Moggallana, his half-brother exiled in India, would return with an unstoppable army, and in a brutal battle, Kassapa, cornered and betrayed, took his own life. He fell from his war elephant, sword in hand, choosing death over humiliation. Thus Sigeria, born as a symbol of absolute power, became the tomb of a king's pride. After Kasapa's fall, the palace city was abandoned as a royal center and in the following decades transformed into a Buddhist monastery. Mount Rorima, South America. At the northernmost tip of South America, where maps seem to hesitate to go further, rises a rock formation that defies time, logic, and reality itself. Mount Rorima, one of the oldest places on Earth, reigns silently at the borders of Venezuela, Brazil, and Guyana. Its flat silhouette outlined against the sky looks like something from an ancient dream or from a forgotten age of the world. There at the heart of the Guyana Shield, Mount Rorima is not merely a mountain. It is a geological monument to eternity. Its vertical cliffs, some rising over 3,280 feet, isolate the summit from the rest of the world, creating a unique ecosystem untouched for millennia. A lost world, a piece of Earth frozen in time. The rocks that make up the mountain date back to the Precambrian period, more than 2 billion years ago. These are sandstone formations that witnessed nameless eras long before complex life emerged. While the rest of the planet transformed through tectonic shifts, ice ages, and mass extinctions, Rorima remained still, almost as if it was waiting to be rediscovered. The word tepui, used by indigenous peoples to describe these formations, means house of the gods. And truly, when facing Mount Rorima for the first time, it's hard not to feel like you're standing before something sacred, a natural altar suspended between sky and earth, a world that seems to guard a secret too ancient to reveal. The culture of the indigenous peoples who live around the mountain, such as the Pemon and the Kapon, is rich with myths and legends about Rorima. For them, the mountain is the trunk of a giant sacred tree, cut down by the gods for bearing forbidden fruit. As it fell, it gave rise to rivers that today flow through the southern plains of Venezuela. The mountain is seen as a forbidden, mysterious place, where spirits and forces dwell that do not belong to our world. Piedra del Peñol, Colombia. In the mountainous heart of Colombia, where nature carves out grand shapes and time seems to flow at a different rhythm, a silent colossus rises, a massive, solitary rock like an ancestral lighthouse pointing toward the skies. Standing at over 656 feet tall, this monolithic rock draws the eye, stirs legends, and transforms the Antioquia landscape into something mythical. Located between the towns of El Peñol and Guatapé, the rock is more than a geological formation. It is a cultural, spiritual, and symbolic entity, a landmark that challenges not only climbers, but also the logic of the modern world. Piedra del Peñol did not emerge by chance. It is the product of millions of years of geological processes, culminating in the abrupt exposure of a batholith, a mass of igneous rock formed deep within the Earth's crust and slowly revealed by the erosion of the layers that once covered it. The rock appears to have sprung from the ground, solitary and gigantic, like a natural obelisk sculpted by silence and time. Composed mainly of quartz, feldspar, and mica, the Piedra del Peñol is a geological witness to the continent's antiquity. Its origins go back to a time so remote it defies human memory. It was there before civilizations, before borders, before Colombia itself. For the Tahami indigenous peoples who lived in the region centuries ago, the rock was sacred, a symbol of the universe, a point of balance between sky and earth. They called it Mojara and believed that spirits lived within it. Many avoided approaching it, others worshipped it. In its stony silence, the rock held an inexplicable, almost magnetic energy. Centuries later, during the colonial period and the formation of the Colombian state, the region around the rock began to change. Settlements formed, churches, markets, farms. But the presence of the rock remained unshaken. It was a point of reference, an icon that, even without words, organized the land around it. A geographic and perhaps spiritual north. The town of El Peñol, which gives the rock its name, was literally dismantled in the 1970s for the construction of a hydroelectric dam. Its homes, streets, and history are now submerged beneath the waters that surround the rock. The old was swallowed by progress, but the rock remained, untouched, untamable. Seven Sisters Cliffs, England. On the southern coast of England, where the English Channel kisses the cliffs with its salty foam, rises one of the United Kingdom's most iconic landscapes, the Seven Sisters Cliffs. Located between Seaford and Eastbourne, in the county of East Sussex, this chain of gleaming white chalk cliffs is a masterpiece sculpted by nature and time. The Seven Sisters are a series of chalk hills that dramatically project over the sea. Each sister represents a distinct peak, separated by gentle valleys, forming a wavy sequence that stretches along the coast. These formations are part of the South Downs Hills, and their radiant whiteness contrasts with the deep blue of the sea and the lush green fields surrounding them. The origin of these cliffs dates back to the Cretaceous period, about 100 million years ago. At that time, the area where the Seven Sisters now stand was submerged beneath a shallow tropical sea. Millions of marine microorganisms, such as coccolithophores, deposited their calcium carbonate skeletons on the sea floor, forming thick layers of chalk. Over millennia, these sediments were compacted and uplifted, giving rise to the impressive cliffs we see today. Constant erosion has shaped the Seven Sisters over centuries. The sea, with its unrelenting tides, and the weather, with its rains and winds, constantly wear down the cliffs, causing parts of them to collapse and reveal fresh, shining faces of chalk. It's estimated that the coastline recedes by about 12 to 16 inches per year due to this natural process. The name Seven Sisters refers to the seven distinct peaks that make up the formation: Haven Brow, Short Brow, Rough Brow, Brass Point, Flagstaff Point, Flat Hill, and Bailey's Hill. Each of these elevations has unique features, but together they form a harmonious and captivating landscape. Interestingly, due to ongoing erosion, an eighth sister has begun to form, yet the traditional name remains. Beyond their natural beauty, the Seven Sisters hold great ecological importance. The area supports a wide range of habitats, including chalk grasslands, marshes, and patches of woodland, which sustain a rich variety of flora and fauna. Rare orchid species bloom along the slopes, while seabirds such as gulls and terns nest in the cliffs. Franz Josef Land, Russia. Some places on Earth seem forgotten by time, places where the wind whispers ancient secrets and the ice holds stories untold for generations. Franz Josef Land is one of these places. A snow-covered and silent archipelago lost in the far north of Russia, on the threshold of the North Pole, surrounded by a frozen ocean and cloaked in a mantle of mystery and desolation. Located over 620 miles north of the Arctic Circle, this collection of frozen islands is among the northernmost points on the planet, inhospitable, uninhabited, almost inaccessible. A labyrinth of 192 islands, ice blocks, mountains hidden in mist, and fjords that seem carved by invisible hands. A world where nature rules supreme and human presence is as rare as sunlight during the polar winter. Franz Josef Land was discovered in 1873 by accident during an Austro-Hungarian expedition led by explorers Julius von Payer and Karl Weiprecht, who were searching for the Northeast Passage, a maritime route between Europe and Asia along northern Russia. Upon encountering the archipelago, they named it after Austrian Emperor Franz Joseph I. The name survived, even through centuries of Russian rule, as a quiet reminder of the great age of polar exploration. But even before its official discovery, this frozen territory had already existed in sailor rumors and on vague maps passed among navigators, cartographers, and visionaries. A legendary place, believed to hide a secret continent, perhaps a polar paradise, perhaps the final refuge of the mammoths. The reality, however, was far more raw and unforgiving. The archipelago is almost entirely covered in ice. Glaciers, vast and thick, cover more than 85% of its surface. Temperatures can drop below -50 degrees Fahrenheit, and razor-sharp winds sweep across the snowy plains with untamed fury. During winter, complete darkness reigns for months, and in summer the sun never sets, a constant twilight where the pale light seems to come from another world. Bonafasio France. At the southern tip of the island of Corsica, like a sentinel sculpted in limestone, stands a city suspended between sky and sea. Its name is Bonafasio, a medieval jewel that defies time, wind, and gravity. Perched on white cliffs that plunge dramatically into the blue waters of the Mediterranean, it seems to float between the mists of history and the reflections of eternity. There, where the sea murmurs ancient legends against the rocks, Bonafasio appears like a living painting. Its stone walls, narrow alleys, and centuries-old staircases all invite the traveler to slow down, to observe, to listen. Founded in 828. After Christ by Boniface II of Tuscany, the city was a strategic fortress from the very beginning. Positioned just a few miles from the coast of Sardinia, in the strait that bears its name, the Strait of Bonafasio, this point of Corsica served as a lookout against Saracen invasions, pirates, and foreign armies. In this part of the Mediterranean, the sea is not just a body of water. It is a stage, a battlefield, a corridor of empires. Over the centuries, Bonafasio was shaped by the hands of Genoese, Pisans, French, and even Spaniards. Each ruling power left its mark on the walls, fortresses, and local traditions. And the city, with its limestone face, absorbed all these traits as if accepting the inevitable, yet never losing its soul. Approaching Bonafasio by sea, the first impression is visual. The houses appear to hang in the void, their facades literally at the cliff's edge. Some structures extend beyond the precipice, supported by centuries of faith and invisible foundations. The upper city, also called Haute Ville, rests like a crown atop the rocks, protected by walls that have withstood 1,000 storms. Climbing to the upper city is almost a ritual experience. And if one path truly embodies the journey between sea and history, it is the Escalier du Roi d'Aragon, the stairway of the King of Aragon. Carved directly into the limestone, with 187 steep and uneven steps, it descends abruptly from the city to the waterfront. Legend has it that it was dug in a single night by Aragonese soldiers during the siege of the city in 1420. Truth or not, the effort is visible, engraved in the rock like a vertical poem. Truly of Alberobello, Italy. In the heel of Italy's boot, where olive groves stretch like green tapestries and the sun casts golden hues across the wheat fields, lies a small town that seems lifted from a Mediterranean dream. Its name is Alberobello, a place where time appears to have surrendered to the simplicity of architecture and the mystery of stone. It is here that we find the Trulli, the most enchanting dry stone buildings in all of Europe. With their conical roofs, whitewashed walls and mystic symbols painted on the lime, the Trulli of Alberobello seem pulled from a rural fairy tale. But behind its charming appearance lie stories of resilience, ingenuity and fiscal resistance. The Trulli emerged not only as an architectural style, but as a practical and clever response to an imposition. In the 15th century, the region of Puglia was under the control of the Kingdom of Naples, and the king demanded taxes on every new permanent construction. To bypass this burden, the local inhabitants developed houses that used no mortar, built only with stacked stones, so they could be quickly dismantled if necessary. These ingenious structures were built using an ancient technique known as dry stone masonry, and their conical shape served a purpose beyond aesthetics. It provided stability without the need for cement or wood. A true example of vernacular architecture, shaped not by engineering schools but by popular wisdom and the need to survive. Alberobello became the epicenter of this tradition. Although other villages in Puglia also have Trulli, it is here that they form entire neighborhoods, composing one of the most unique architectural ensembles on the planet. In the year 1797, after centuries of feudal domination, the residents petitioned King Ferdinand IV to have the city recognized as free and its Trulli legalized. The request was granted, and since then, Alberobello has stood as a symbol of autonomy and local identity. Walking through its alleys is like diving into a limestone labyrinth, where each trullo is a small universe. The houses vary in size but follow the same structure, a white cylindrical base with a conical dome made of overlapping grey stones. At the top, a decorative pinnacle, which can be spherical, pyramidal, or disc-shaped. Pamukkale, Turkey. Seen from afar, Pamukkale looks like a snow-covered canyon, a chain of petrified clouds, a sculpture as white as milk suspended between the blue sky and the golden valleys. But what you see is not snow nor ice. It is stone. Living stone shaped by centuries of calcium-rich water flowing down the mountainside, trickling in fine cascades and solidifying into travertine terraces with hypnotic natural pools. This geological phenomenon began tens of thousands of years ago. The hot water emerging from deep fissures in the earth carries high concentrations of calcium bicarbonate. When the water reaches the surface, the carbon dioxide disperses and the calcium carbonate is deposited. The result: layers upon layers of white limestone rock that glisten in the sun as if made of liquid marble. Walking barefoot across the terraces, as local tradition requires, you don't just feel the texture of the rock. You feel the history, the memory, the gentle warmth rising from the ground. And that memory is ancient, very ancient, because Pamukkale is not just a natural wonder, it is also the cradle of a forgotten, sacred and legendary city, Hierapolis. Founded by the kings of Pergamon in the 2nd century before Christ, Hierapolis was built as a spiritual and therapeutic center, a refuge for those seeking healing, rest, and rebirth. Its thermal baths attracted Romans, Greeks, Syrians, Phrygians. Its temples celebrated gods and goddesses who seemed to blend with the warmth of the waters and the whiteness of the travertines. The city flourished. It was adorned with theaters, fountains, Corinthian columns, necropolises and basilicas. Today, imposing ruins still spread across the hillside. The Roman theater, carefully restored, is an archaeological jewel, with a capacity for more than 12,000 spectators and acoustics that defy time. And behind it, silence. A sacred silence, where the wind seems to repeat forgotten prayers. The water flowing from the travertines is not only hot, it is medicinal. Rich in minerals, it has been used for millennia to treat skin diseases, rheumatism and digestive problems. Many believed, and still believe, that it holds sacred properties. Amazon, Brazil. It covers nearly half of Brazil's territory and stretches across 9 countries, but the largest portion lies in Brazil. It is more than a forest. It is an entire world with its own laws, its own rhythm, its own voice. A sanctuary of biodiversity, the lungs of the earth, a mystery not yet fully unraveled by science or the human soul. The Brazilian Amazon spans approximately 2,123,000 square miles, an area equivalent to the combined size of India and Argentina. It is the largest tropical rainforest on the planet, and contrary to popular belief, it's not just dense jungle. It's a mosaic of ecosystems, upland forests, flooded plains, small creeks, natural fields and savannas. What keeps this vast region alive is the Amazon River, the largest river in the world by water volume. It originates in the Peruvian Andes and flows over 4,000 miles, crossing the forest like a liquid spine. Fed by over 1,000 tributaries, many of them larger than major rivers in other continents, the Amazon is the main artery of this forest organism. But there are other rivers, hundreds, thousands. The Negro, Solimões, Madeira, Tapajós, Xingu and Juruá rivers. Together, they form a hydrographic network that nourishes the forest, regulates the climate, feeds millions of species, and defines the way of life for those who live there. In the Amazon, water is not just a resource, it is landscape, it is path, it is origin. And where the land and water meet, life explodes. It is estimated that the Amazon is home to about 10% of all living species on the planet. There are more than 40,000 plant species, 400 types of mammals, 1,300 bird species, and countless insects, reptiles, and amphibians. In its shadows live jaguars, tapirs, giant anteaters, blue macaws, black caimans, pink river dolphins, and millions of life forms invisible to the eye, yet essential to the planet's balance. The Amazon is a natural laboratory, but it's not only animals that make the Amazon extraordinary, it's also the people. It is estimated that over 350 indigenous peoples inhabit the forest, many of them living traditionally, others in ongoing contact with surrounding society. Hookah Falls. A place called Hookah Falls, the Hookah Waterfalls. There, the Waikato River, the longest in the country, stops being just a calm flow of blue water and turns into a wild, fierce, uncontrollable torrent. In just a few yards, the river narrows dramatically, forced to pass through a rocky gorge less than 50 feet wide. And then it plunges. The waterfall is only 36 feet tall, but don't be fooled. What's striking about Hookah is not its height. It's the force, the pressure, the volume. Over 58,000 gallons of water per second crash down with relentless fury, forming whirlpools of white foam, arcs of mist, and a roar that vibrates in the chest like an ancestral drum. It's a waterfall that growls, that breathes. The word hookah in Maori means foam, and that's exactly what you see. A thick white blanket of boiling water, as if the river itself were bubbling with energy. For the Maori people, the Hookah Falls are more than a natural wonder. They are wahi tapu, sacred places. Portals where the physical and spiritual worlds intertwine. As visitors walk along the trails leading to the viewing platforms, they are greeted by a hypnotic spectacle. The turquoise blue of the waters contrasts with the deep green of native vegetation, creating a color palette that seems almost unreal. The foliage shimmers with moisture suspended in the air, while the wind carries fragments of rainbow that dance above the falls. There is a moment, just before reaching the main platform, when you can see the river bracing for the leap. It stirs, coils, spins on itself, like a contained animal ready to break its chains. And then, in a single motion, the water hurls itself violently against the rock, creating vortices that stretch along the base of the fall like liquid serpents. The Waikato River has a peaceful origin. It rises from Lake Taupo, a gigantic volcanic caldera filled with crystal-clear water, formed by one of the largest eruptions in the recent geological history of the planet. When the lake overflows, it feeds the river, and the river in turn carries with it the living history of the island, its ashes, minerals, native fish, and ancestral memories. Dead Sea, Israel. A vastness of salt, silence, and light that challenges the body, the mind, and nature itself. Located at the border between Israel, Jordan, and Palestine, the Dead Sea is, in fact, a lake. But not just any lake. It is the lowest point on Earth's surface, sunk over 1,410 feet below sea level. And it keeps sinking. Every year, the salt basin deepens, revealing an open wound in the heart of the desert. The waters of the Dead Sea are 10 times saltier than those of the oceans. A dense, almost viscous liquid that repels life but welcomes the body. Here, nothing sinks. Visitors float effortlessly, like leaves drifting atop a millennia-old mineral soup. It's an experience that seems to defy the laws of physics and spirit. But why Dead Sea? The name comes from its uninhabitability. No fish, no algae, no aquatic creature survives in its waters. Only some extremophile microorganisms endure, hidden among the salt crystals. It is a sea with no visible life. And yet, paradoxically, it is a place where many come seeking healing and rebirth. The ancients called it the Salt Sea, the Eastern Sea, or the Sea of Sodom. Its surroundings are steeped in biblical legend. It is here that, according to Scripture, stood the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, consumed by divine fire as punishment for their moral decay. The salt hills that surround the lake still seem to whisper that story. And then there is the mythical figure of Lot's wife, turned into a pillar of salt for looking back while fleeing the destruction. On one of the southern region's hills, a rock formation rises like a lonely sentinel. Many point to it as her, a petrified reminder of disobedience and fatal curiosity. Geologically, the Dead Sea is a marvel in constant change. It formed millions of years ago when tectonic plates created a depression between the Judean Desert and the Jordan Plateau. There, water accumulated, evaporated, became salty, and gave rise to a unique ecosystem. Today, the sea is shrinking. Its levels are dropping by about 3 feet per year, primarily due to the diversion of the Jordan River, its main source of fresh water. The Pinnacles Desert, Australia. In the vast and rugged west of Australia, where the Indian Ocean meets red earth and the sky seems endless, lies a desert unlike any other. A desert where stones rise like ghosts from the past, like sand sentinels, like fragments of a fossilized world. It is called the Pinnacles Desert. Located within Nambung National Park, about 125 miles north of Perth, the Pinnacles Desert covers an area of over 65 square miles, a landscape seemingly carved by invisible forces. Thousands of limestone columns emerge from the golden sand, forming an army of stones stretching as far as the eye can see. These columns, known as pinnacles, vary in shape and size. Some are thin and sharp, like spears. Others, rounded, resemble human torsos or worn cathedral spires. Some are just a few inches tall, while others rise over 13 feet high. They weren't carved by human hands. They are the work of wind, rain, time, and silence. For centuries, this place remained hidden from the world, known only to local indigenous peoples, especially the Nyungar, who considered it sacred ground. To them, the pinnacles were more than geological formations. They were petrified remains of ancestors, guardians of the desert, markers of stories that are not written, only told. Scientifically, the pinnacles are formed from sedimentary limestone, the result of crushed seashells deposited by ancient seas between 25,000 and 30,000 years ago, during the Quaternary period. With the retreat of the sea and the action of acid rain, these layers were compacted and hardened. Later, the wind removed the superficial layers of sand, exposing the structures that had once been buried. This process is still the subject of debate among geologists. There are hypotheses involving calcification around plant roots, differential erosion, and even variations in local mineral concentrations. But beyond the scientific explanations, what truly impresses is the landscape sculpted by these forces. A cemetery of columns, where each pinnacle tells a story of millions of years, in silence. Shafler Ridge. Located in the heart of the Alpstein Massif in the Appenzell region of northeastern Switzerland, Shafler Ridge is a geological formation as wild as it is beautiful. It rises like a natural wall, cutting across the skies and dividing the world between green valleys and vertical cliffs. It is a place where time moves slowly and nature speaks loudly. Shafler is not the highest peak in the Swiss Alps, but it is undoubtedly one of the most iconic. Its jagged, blade-like shape resembles the spine of a sleeping dragon. The grey rocks, composed mostly of Jurassic limestone, are arranged in dramatic angles that defy logic and mesmerize the eye. It's a setting that fuses fragility and power. Over the years, Shafler has become a visual symbol of the Swiss mountains. Photographers from around the world climb to its crest to capture that unique moment when mist kisses the stones or when sunrise turns the sky into liquid fire. It's not uncommon to see images of this place featured in magazines, social media, and exhibitions, each angle revealing a new layer of beauty. The journey to Shafler is an essential part of the experience. Many visitors begin in Wasserauen, a small village surrounded by pastures and dairy cows, where the sound of cowbells echoes softly. From there, a cable car takes visitors to Ebenalp, where the hike begins. The trails are well marked, but not without challenge. It takes about 2 hours of uphill trekking, with steep sections and sheer drops in view. Along the way, the modern-day pilgrim encounters surprises. One is Gasthaus Escher, the famous restaurant built into a cliff, with views that stretch to infinity. Another is Wild Kirchli, a prehistoric cave that sheltered humans over 50,000 years ago. Here, the spiritual and the geological intertwine. The sacred hides beneath the rock. Upon reaching the ridge, the scenery opens like an ancient book. Shafler Ridge stretches out like a tongue of living stone, with the sky bending overhead and the Sialpsee Valley resting below, serene like a hidden mirror. To the right, the jagged peaks of Alpstein pierce the air with grandeur. To the left, the abyss. Rio Tinto, Spain. Red like rust, red like an ancient scream from the depths of the earth. Its name is Rio Tinto. Since antiquity, Rio Tinto has fascinated and terrified. Its acidic waters, stained by metallic oxides, create a near-Martian landscape where the familiar disappears and the strange takes over. A river that does not support life like others do, but that holds within it the secrets of life's very origins. It rises in the Sierra de Padre Caro in the province of Huelva and runs for about 62 miles until it empties into the Atlantic Ocean near the city of El Puerto de Huelva. But it is not its course that impresses. It is its color. A deep red, sometimes orange, other times nearly black depending on the light, the depth, the moment. A river of shifting hues. This unusual coloration is the result of thousands of years of geological activity and mining. The region's rocks are rich in pyrite, iron, copper, and other heavy metals. As water flows through these rocks, it becomes saturated with metallic ions and turns extremely acidic, with a pH below 2, almost like liquid vinegar carving the stones with corrosive patience. But the most surprising thing is that, even in this hostile environment, there is life. Invisible, primitive, and resilient life. Extremophile microorganisms thrive in Rio Tinto, feeding on minerals, breathing iron. Adapted to conditions that would be lethal to most other beings, they not only survive, they flourish. These microorganisms have fascinated scientists around the world. Their existence suggests that life does not need ideal conditions to emerge, that maybe on Mars, on Titan, or on distant exoplanets, something similar might exist. In fact, both NASA and ESA have conducted various studies at Rio Tinto to simulate extraterrestrial environments and train for future exploration missions. And there is something deeply symbolic in that. A river that kills fish but feeds microbes. A river where the water is toxic but science finds hope. A river where death and life coexist in invisible balance. A liquid mirror in which we see not what we are, but what we might become. Kodakchrome Basin State Park. Its name is Kodakchrome Basin State Park, a geological sanctuary where light reveals, shadows sculpt and time bends. This park, often overshadowed by its neighboring giants like Bryce Canyon and Zion, holds its own secret. A secret that doesn't shout, that doesn't stand out at first glance, but once uncovered, it is never forgotten. It is a place where stone dances, and the sky becomes a canvas for the daily spectacle of light. The name Kodakchrome was given in 1948 by a National Geographic team in honor of the Kodak photographic film, famous for its rich color saturation. No name could be more fitting, because what you see there is not just scenery. It's a palette, a contrast. It's a revelation. A deep blue sky, red, orange, ochre and golden rocks, sparse vegetation in burnt green tones, dotted with wildflowers during spring. Perhaps nowhere else has nature presented itself with such precision in hue. A park that seems to have been created to be photographed, but in person it's even more unbelievable. Kodakchrome is home to more than 60 geological formations, known as chimneys or sandpipes. Stone columns that rise vertically from the ground like towers frozen in mid-motion. Some reach heights of over 160 feet. They are unique, inexplicable, found almost exclusively in this one location on the planet. For years, geologists tried to decipher their origin. The most accepted theory today suggests that the sandpipes are the result of ancient hydrothermal activity, where pressurized mineral water penetrated cracks in the sedimentary rock, cementing columns of sand that resisted the erosion that consumed everything around them. The result is this silent army of vertical stones, monuments sculpted by Earth itself. And there is a silence there that is not merely the absence of sound. It's a silence of reverence, of contemplation, of encounter. Because in Kodakchrome, every step echoes between sandstone walls, every shadow projects an ancient story. Every curve in the trail reveals a new perspective that compels the visitor to stop and observe. Lfoten, Norway. At the far north of the planet, where the sea meets the mountains and time seems to flow at an ancestral rhythm, lies Lfoten, an archipelago that defies logic and enchants with its near-mythical beauty. Located above the Arctic Circle, in Nordland County, Norway, Lfoten is a living tapestry of dramatic peaks, deep fjords, white sand beaches, and crystal-clear waters in an impossible shade of blue. Even at such northern latitudes, Lfoten surprises with a relatively mild climate, thanks to the Gulf Stream, which gently warms the coast and allows life to flourish in a place where, by all rights, there should be only ice and silence. But there is no silence in Lfoten. There is wind, there is sea, there are stories, and there is an almost spiritual presence, as if each stone, each wave, each breath of wind carried the memory of millennia of existence. Lfoten is not just a place, it is an experience. Whether arriving by land, sea or air, the visitor is immediately enveloped by a landscape that feels pulled from an ancient Norse tale. The mountains rise abruptly from the water, standing like the ramparts of a lost world. Many of them have their own names, given by fishermen and sailors who learn to recognize the peaks as guides, as companions on the journey, as silent gods watching from above. The main islands, Ostvågøy, Vestvågøy, Flakstadøy, and Moskenesøy, are connected by bridges, tunnels, and coastal roads that offer breathtaking views at every turn. Between them lie small fishing villages with red stilt houses, known as rorbuer, dotting the coastline like careful brushstrokes in a natural masterpiece. Svolvær, The archipelago's main town is a vibrant center of culture and commerce, yet it never loses its maritime identity. The docks are filled with fishing boats, and the air carries the scent of salt and fresh fish, reminding all that fishing remains the backbone of the local economy. For centuries, Lofoten has been the heart of the Arctic cod fishery, the scry, which migrates from the icy waters of the Barents Sea to spawn here, drawing men and women from all over Norway in search of sustenance. Brunan, Switzerland. A U-shaped valley, carved by glaciers thousands of years ago, surrounded by near-vertical rock walls from which dozens of waterfalls plunge in free fall, like veils floating in the wind. Brunan, whose name means many springs, is one of the most awe-inspiring valleys in the Alps, with 72 documented waterfalls. The landscape is so dramatic, so perfect, it feels like a painting brought to life. The sky opens in a deep blue, while the mountains, like silent guardians, rise in all directions. Between them, the village settles in a serenity that defies time. Walking the trails of Lauterbrunnen, the visitor is surrounded by a natural symphony, the constant sound of falling water, the song of alpine birds, the rustle of leaves in the wind. And occasionally, the distant echo of a cowbell, reminding that even amidst grandeur, life continues in its simple and steady rhythm. There is something deeply spiritual about this place, as if the very air were filled with peace and wisdom. The valley has inspired poets, writers, and artists. It was here that J.R.R. Tolkien, after a youthful visit, imagined Rivendell, the elven refuge in Middle-earth. And it's not hard to see why. The cascades tumbling down the cliffs resemble the fantastical descriptions of hidden realms. The trails among flowering fields and wooded glades seem drawn from ancient fables. It is a setting where reality and imagination blur. The most famous of the waterfalls is Staubachfall, standing 974 feet tall. During spring and summer, when snowmelt increases the flow of rivers, this waterfall transforms into a misty curtain suspended in the air. The wind scatters the droplets before they ever reach the ground, creating a spectacle that mesmerizes. At dusk, when the last rays of sunlight filter through the valley, Staubach shines like liquid gold floating in the air. And if Staubach enchants with its lightness, the Trimmelbach Falls impress with their power. Hidden inside the mountain, these subterranean waterfalls channel the meltwater from the Eigermönch and Jungfrau glaciers, pouring up to 5,000 gallons per second through channels carved into the rock. A labyrinth of tunnels and staircases allows visitors to enter this hidden world, where the water roars like thunder, echoing through the Earth's core. Marmalada, Italy. Known as the Queen of the Dolomites, it is the highest mountain in this majestic range of the Italian Alps, reaching an elevation of 10,970 feet. It is not just a peak, it is a presence, a white colossus that dominates the landscape and the memory of all who behold it. Marmalada belongs to the Veneto and Trentino Alto Adige regions, lands of unparalleled beauty, deep culture, and tumultuous history. Its slopes carry stories of battles, mountaineering feats, and climatic shifts. And atop it lies the last great glacier of the Dolomites, a river of ice in slow retreat, whose existence grows more precious each passing year. The name Marmalada derives from the Latin marma, meaning marble, a reference to the shimmering of its icy faces under the sun. Seen from afar, its slopes shine as if made of crystal, but up close its true texture is revealed: rock, snow, wind, and time. It is a mountain that commands respect, that speaks little but says everything. Surrounding Marmalada are alpine villages like Canazei, Malga Chapela, and Rocca Piatore, communities rich in Ladin traditions, ancient languages, and lives shaped by the rhythm of the seasons. These are people used to living in the mountain's shadow, respecting its moods and celebrating its gifts. Strong, humble people, molded by cold and altitude. The Marmalada Glacier is the frozen heart of this territory. Over the centuries, it has shaped the landscape and nourished the rivers that flow through forests and villages. Walking on it is like stepping into an ancient time. Deep blue crevasses reveal compacted layers of snow, preserving echoes of winters long past. But the glacier is vanishing. Each summer, it retreats a few more feet. Each decade, it loses more volume. During World War I, Marmalada was the site of one of the harshest fronts. Italians and Austro-Hungarians fought battles at high altitudes, digging tunnels in the ice, building underground villages, and enduring temperatures that tested the limits of sanity. Even today, remnants of equipment, uniforms, and even bodies are discovered in the melting ice. We hope you enjoyed today's video. Up next, we'll leave you with more content that might catch your attention. See you in the next video.